So in the Power World drug TV shows or in the game in real life, it always involves death, drugs, battle for money, control, and power, but also snitching and betrayal. And in the Power universe, we've seen various betrayals and snitching across Power, Power Book 2 Ghost, and Raising Kanan. And unfortunately, this is what happens in the game, when there's money, power, and lives at stake. Now, sometimes this betrayal is forced and beyond your control. For example, when Cooper Saxe and John Mack strong-arm Proctor into wearing a wire, and other times it's law enforcement or another drug dealer forcing you to betray for freedom. So each circumstance is different to the person involved and the situation, and this is something we're now seeing play out in Power Book 4 Force, with Jannard who's betraying Diamond for money and power, with this internal power struggle we're watching for control over the CBI. But this is something I went through in this video, which I will link down below in the description and comment section. So in this video, we're going to focus on Elijah and Uncle Paulie's angle, because he's been someone who's been targeted by law enforcement as a weak link to the Flynn organization. And after episode 8, I really want to look at the perspective whether we could see a betrayal from Uncle Paulie, as well as how and why we could see Uncle Paulie betray the Flynn family organization. But let's start with a betrayal from the CBI side, because Elijah was someone who was confirmed to be working with Adrienne the Journalist.
I was writing a piece on fallen nations in Chicago. Young gang members with no leadership. I was there to meet a CBI soldier who was going to give his story, but he never showed.
Who was it?
Elijah Linden.
So when Adrienne entered the scene and was sitting in Diamond's booth in the cafe, I'm sure we could all tell it wasn't a coincidence, but rather her looking for Diamond, she was actually waiting for Elijah. But of course, he was never going to show because he was killed in the fight with the Serbs. But it looked like he was going to give Adrienne a story about broken nations in Chicago and the young men who fall victim to it, which was the original story that she was after. But I do have to say, it was kind of a dumb place to meet Adrienne, considering this is one of Diamond's regular diners. And it is a very good job that he was killed, which Jannard should be actually thankful for, because if he did give the story to Adrienne, then who knows what he would have said about Jannard, Diamond, and the CBI, which could have landed them in a whole load of trouble with law enforcement. And this is the reason why Tommy wanted Ghost to remain a ghost, reminding him no pictures when the media things were picking up with the club business. But this is something that was only found out by Diamond by chance. And I do think there's something real between Adrienne and Diamond, but he still got his wits about him, because as much as she did her research on him, he also did his research on her. But let's see which direction they take this storyline, because Adrienne's character description does tell us that Diamond will give her a story. So let's see what his story is, because this could give us a lot more backstory and insight into Diamond's life before he went to prison, the rise of Diamond, the CBI, as well as the fall. But let's move on to whether or not there could be another betrayal in the form of Uncle Paulie from inside the Flynn organization. But let's start from the beginning. Uncle Paulie is Walter's brother-in-law, and he's someone who took an oath to the Flynn family and organization. And this is why we see him showing up often with pieces of advice for Walter on a few occasions, and also for Vic in the case of episode 8. But where we see Uncle Paulie trying to reason with Walter Flynn, he's a man who can never be reasoned with because of his old traditional and stubborn ways. But let's have a look at Uncle Paulie's son, and then we're going to tie this in with Walter, Vic, and the Flynn family organization. Now, we all know Uncle Paulie has a son who's Andre, who was lost to the streets to a drug addiction. And this scene with Uncle Paulie and Andre was definitely shown to us for a reason. It shows us that despite his son being a drug addict and someone who is lost to the streets, you can really sense Uncle Paulie still loves Andre and wants to do what's best for him. He bought him clean clothes, wants him to go to rehab, and he even mentioned in episode 8 in this conversation with Vic that he was on his way to visit his son. But this is the reason why Uncle Paulie's trying to reason with Walter Flynn, and he's trying to open Walter's eyes up to what happens if you push your kids too far. Because where Uncle Paulie has lost Andre to the streets, he doesn't want the same thing happening to the Flynns. And ironically, Walter Flynn did actually return the same advice to Uncle Paulie himself.
Still hope for your son. Believe it up.
But is there any hope for Uncle Paulie's son? What if he dies taking Dahlia? Who's he gonna blame then? Because all the fingers will point to Claudia and a product. And again, I mentioned this before, could JP get his cut wrong, leading to a bad batch of product, resulting in death on the streets from Dahlia? And if this does happen, the fingers won't just point in the direction of Claudia, but also in Walter Flynn's, because Paulie's been trying to reason with Walter Flynn all season long, trying to make him see sense with his kids, where he even called off the hit on Gloria. But could this be the catalyst for Uncle Paulie to turn on the Flynn family organization? Because the blame starts from the top, and that's with Walter Flynn.
Got nothing on him.
We got 26 years of shit on you. What makes you think if Walter goes down, he's not dragging you with him?
But so far, we've seen him be nothing but loyal when he rejected Detective Vargas and Kayla's approach. But Andre's death could really shake up the dynamics and change things. But not only do we need to consider Andre falling to the streets, is Uncle Paulie working the angle of trying to gain control and power of the Flynn family organization for himself. And it goes back to the point I made at the start, where everybody has a goal in this game, and it could even be argued where Uncle Paulie is there to give advice, where he called off the Gloria hit. We also saw him go to Vic and tell him that his father's taken a liking to Tommy, which made Vic have his doubts about Tommy's motives. But is Uncle Paulie working the angle of trying to get Walter and Vic out the way, knowing that he's next in line to take control over the Flynn family organization? Because he did leave out a crucial part where Tommy rejected Walter's advances, so it is something we need to watch. But do I think Uncle Paulie could betray the Flynn family? Now I think what could change his mindset is Andre dying and falling to the streets. This is what I think could be the game changing moment, but I am swaying to the side that his intentions are to help the Flynn family stay together, because he had no idea that Tommy went to Vic's before he did. But again, as I always mention, we really need to keep an eye on this situation because things can really change fast in the world of power. So with that being said, drop all your thoughts down below on Elijah who is due to talk to Adrienne, and do you think Uncle Paulie could turn? Or do you think he's already working his own angle already? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and of course if you're new to the channel you haven't done so already, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Power Book 4 Force and Power Universe related. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.